The Charlotte Ledger Podcast is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Charlotte Ledger Podcast. I'm Steve Dunn. To find out more about the Charlotte Ledger, visit thecharlotteledger.com. I'm joined today by Nicole Gardner, founder and CEO of Gardner Skelton PLLC, a law firm serving executives, professionals, and businesses of all sizes. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. So you have a law firm that serves businesses in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm sure our listeners are imagining a bunch of gray-haired white guys in gray suits with red ties and white shirts. But that's not Gardner Skelton at all, is it?
It is not. I know that you know it is not because you've been there.
You tell me. I have my own ideas about what makes your law firm different, but I'd love to hear from you. What is different about the way that you operate and the way you do things?
Wow, there's a lot that's different, but part of what you're referring to, I think, is the vibe of the place. And one thing that we really wanted was we wanted our space to reflect who we are. And we are a little bit different. So our space is located in an old upfit 1965 chocolate factory. And you'll find a lot of color and murals on the walls and open conference rooms, lots of couches, lots of chairs. A lot of people say it looks more like a startup or an ad agency than it does like a law firm.
Well, let's start there. Because there's a lot of ways that a law firm can be different. And I think yours probably strikes a lot of different notes. And I'd like to talk about all of them, but the physical space is certainly a part of it. And you made a lot of choices there. You had an opportunity to renovate an existing building, but to truly make it your own. And there is a sense in which architecture and decorating in your physical space is a reflection of your culture and your values as an organization. And you've obviously been intentional about it. And it certainly is striking when you walk into the building. You mentioned that there's a lot of color. There's a lot of variety. Each of the spaces kind of has its own look, but it coheres together into a whole that's very modern and very energetic. And so I wonder how you think about how those choices reflect on the work you do and how you do it.
I have always viewed law as a creative profession. And I think that most people don't see it that way. You know, they see it as the gray suits kind of thing. But what we do day to day is we solve problems. Creative problem solving is who we are. It's what we do. And why not have a space that leans into that and that encourages creativity? I think a lot of law firms talk about teamwork and collaboration, but the space doesn't necessarily lend itself to that. Our space does lend itself to that. Pretty much anywhere you go, there's a couch, a table, there's somewhere to sit, to talk, to meet, and to work on things together, which is really how we like to work.
Some places you don't really have much choice, right? Like some places you're renting from a landlord and you're one of, like this place that we're sitting in right now it's a nice building in the South Park area, but we couldn't have done what you did, even if we wanted to. But do you own the building?
We do.
And so you had the opportunity to just kind of do whatever you wanted. I'm kind of curious. I'm very curious, actually. How do you actually do it? Like, who managed that and who made all those choices? Because there's 1,000 little decisions that have to be made, and it's easy to make a mistake. It's easy to do something that, in retrospect, you kind of wish you hadn't done. As somebody who's been to the building, I don't see anything that's obviously like wrong. But you tell me, like, how's it been?
It has been amazing. This was a project. It took many, many years. And I had an incredible team that was working with me. I had amazing brokers who helped us to figure out what we wanted and to buy the building. I then had a project manager, Strata Project Management. Little Architects were my architects, and Parker was my GC. My team was almost all women, which was very interesting. You know, when the architects came to pitch, the entire team was female. The architect, the lead designer, everyone who pitched me was female. And Josh, I haven't forgotten about you.
All right, who's Josh?
So Josh was also part of my team.
Okay.
He's the one guy from Little on the Little team. But it was fascinating and great to work with a team of largely women. Now, our Harker team was mainly male. They had some women on their team too. But the design, all of the design aspects, the architecture, the design, it was pretty much a group of women coming together to figure that out.
That's consistent with the law firm, right? Your partner, Heather Skelton, and you were there. Now, there's a lot of folks there now. The firm is growing and has grown. But the two of you have been at the helm for a while, two women and a team of women there. What is it? And you have this mural on the outside of the building, right? And it's not all women, but there's a lot of women, like women in the law and other legal lights, throughout the ages are sort of represented there. Is Andy Griffith one of the?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I was about to say that it was all like great lawyers and judges throughout history, but some of them are also fictional characters as well.
Yes, there are a lot of fictional characters.
Oh, okay.
Elle Woods is on there, yes.
Oh, all right. That's the character from Legally Blonde, is that right?
It is.
Okay, all right. So it's a little tongue-in-cheek and it's whimsical a little bit, but also with an undercurrent of justice and competence and capability and strength, right? Strong women and characters are represented there. And so that's been part of the firm culture. It seems like a natural fit to work with the people who are working on the building, also have that same mindset.
It was. It just, that whole team felt very natural for us to work together. And I remember at one point, I think they had given me their first design, and it was pretty close to the gray suit kind of office. And I said to them, I wonder what would happen if you just unleashed yourselves. And I didn't realize the effect that my comment had on my team. And they went back to their office and apparently pondered, like they spent hours going, what did she mean by that? And what could we do? And they then really revamped the whole office design based on that. And they used the theme of a leash, and they took it and wound the leash all the way through the office. So that created a lot of the curves that you now see in the office. So the leash theme it's subtle, but when you know to look for it, I think you see it.
Okay, well, there's a leash theme, and the people who are charged with doing the design and the architecture and the building and the structuring are considering themselves as being unleashed. They're being untethered in that way. The metaphor is strong in other ways, though, right? Because there's another aspect of the firm culture, which is one of loving dogs. I think
yes.
There's a movie called Must Love Dogs from a long time ago, and
I don't remember that one.
Oh, you look up Must Love Dogs. I think it's like a romantic comedy, and I think that's sort of that like language from a personal ad is Must Love Dogs. But I feel like Must Love Dogs might as well go on your job application solicitations, because dogs are welcome in the office. The law firm dogs are on the website. You've got, the headshots of the lawyers and the staff, but you've also got a lot of their dogs.
Yes.
And when you go there, it's impossible not to notice. There's a dog park outside of the building, right?
Yes, there is.
But that's part of the choice. It's all, to me, it seems like parts of the choice to be authentic and to be yourself and be unafraid in that choice. Love us or hate us. I don't know if anybody's ever pushed back on you about it or whatever, but you're just putting yourself out there as who you are.
That's the intent, yeah. What I think gets lost sometimes is that, lawyers are humans. And it's important to treat people like humans. We need nice spaces to work. It affects us. I mean, one of the first things I did when we were looking for this building was I started to research what kind of design makes people healthy and happy to work in a place. Because we all know that, lawyers, mental health, not necessarily our professional strong suit. So,
well, that's an understatement.
Yes,
it's our great weak point. If anything, we lead among professions. We're near the top in addiction, suicide, and all forms of mental health challenges. And you're that. You're a lawyer yourself, and you and I both know a lot of lawyers, and we know how we are. And so it sounds like some of the choices that you've made, whether it's with respect to the physical space or the invitation of our furry friends into the place, it's consciously intended to shake up that dynamic.
It is. If a lawyer is depressed, if they're addicted, if they're stressed, if they're suffering from crippling anxiety, how good do you think of a job they're really doing for their clients? I think happy lawyers who feel supported and well, are going to be better lawyers. And That's really important to us. We want excellent service for our clients, and I don't think that stressed out, overworked people are going to give excellent service and do excellent legal work.
It seems like a real balancing act too, though, because you're high-powered people and you have high-powered clients, and you're certainly contending in an adversarial sort of way with a bunch of people who at least think of themselves as being high-powered people too, right?
Right.
Some of them wearing gray suits and white shirts and red ties, right? Every single day, including Friday. And so you've got this place that I love it, but I'm like a modern and contemporary and colorful type of guy, you know? So I think it's great, but there's a real fine line between having a little bit of verve and, you know, a sort of a spicy approach to high value work versus like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, you know, like and one man's one is another man's other. And you gotta sort of appeal to the client base that you're trying to serve too. And you need to give at the same time an impression of being really good, because that's important to your clients too. Like they want you to be humans, and they want you to be nice, and they want you to be happy, but they really want to win their case, right?
They do.
And so how do you balance that? And how does the choices that you've made with respect to the physical space intersect with the way that you insist upon doing your job?
Oh boy, there's a lot of questions there. So most of our clients have reacted really positively to our building. There have been a couple that have raised eyebrows, but what I didn't want to communicate is that this is a bunch of schmucks that are in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You know, I did want a space that's really beautiful. I mean, it may be unique for a law firm, but I hope that it communicates, you know, competence and elegance in its own way, and that when people walk in, they know that they're being well represented by serious professionals. And we are serious. Believe it or not, I've learned that you can wear jeans and you can do great legal work wearing denim. I know this is a surprise. This is shocking, but I have discovered this over the last decade or so. So my clients, by and large, have reacted really, really well to it. They love the space. And in fact, I let them use our space. Like if they want to do an offsite leadership retreat, you know, if their C-suite needs to get offsite and go somewhere, a couple of our clients have used our space for that purpose. We allow nonprofits to come in and use our space where we want to be part of the community and generous to the community. So nonprofits who need that kind of a space for a leadership retreat or something, we welcome everybody to come on in, and people seem to really react very well to it by and large. It's fun. It's nice to pet a dog. Although sometimes our dogs drool on you, and that can be a problem if you're wearing dry clean only clothing.
It depends on who you are, I suppose. You're doing real work over there. What is it? It seems as though you definitely according to your website, you represent executives and professionals and businesses of all sizes, from Fortune 500 down to sort of mom and pop operations. And I would imagine that includes all of the challenges that they might face, from contracts to employment situations. But you've got a team, and it seems like it's growing all the time. And you're bringing in folks, each of whom has their own sort of practice area and their own sort of client base. So how do you describe sort of what the firm offers these days?
Well, we try to be a well-rounded place that for a smaller or a regional business, we can handle 90% of your needs. Like, for example, we don't have a patent prosecutor in our office, so we're not going to handle everything, but we can really be your outsourced general counsel because we have corporate law, tax law. If you happen to be in the healthcare space, we have healthcare regulatory law. We represent a lot of the independent medical practices in town. We have, of course, contracts, litigation, employment, and just recently, based on a couple of partner additions, we actually have a booming construction law practice, which I never saw coming. That just happened. But we tend to pick our professionals to join us by two things. What do our clients need? So if our clients need something that we don't have in-house and we find that we keep needing to refer out, let's see if we can't find someone in that area. And the other is just, if there's a great lawyer who is interested in coming, I really don't care what they do. I say, we've always said as our recruiting mantra, great lawyer, great person, not necessarily in that order. That's who we're looking for.
How do you find people?
Accident, luck, word of
just
mouth.
Talking,
Yes.
Words slipping out and or across the conference room table at some point? Or so it sounds like you've done a little bit of a mix of going out and recruiting versus having people come to you and say like, hey, how does it go? What do you like best?
We have. It's always great when someone comes to you, because if someone comes to us, they already have a sense probably of who we are and what we're about, and they like that. And that's the way they want to practice. That's what they want to do. When we recruit, we've got to introduce ourselves, because we are a little bit different, and we have to really make sure that this is the right place for that person. And we're very brutally honest, I think, about who we are, what we're about, and the potential flaws or irritants that they are likely to find in our office. And those who decide that that's the place for them, then we're really happy about that.
Community involvement is a big piece of the puzzle as well. And this is true of you personally. Most folks, most professional people are involved in a little something here and there outside of work, but you are way above average in terms of your affiliations, your board memberships, your board chairs positions that you've held. And and you tout that with respect to the firm as well. You've mentioned, just since we've been talking about opening up the physical space to community organizations who might have a need. What are you currently sort of most focused on from a volunteer and charitable perspective, both individually and as a firm?
Oh boy. So let's see. I just rolled off as the board chair at Anuvia Prevention and Recovery Center. Fabulous place, fabulous leadership. If anyone out there knows someone who needs some mental health, behavioral health, or addiction support, those folks are amazing. And anybody in Charlotte can walk in there, get an assessment, and go there for free. If you don't have insurance, they can take care of you at no cost. I mean, how many people can say that?
It's called Anuvia?
Anuvia, Anuvia. It's right on Billingsley Road, right, if you know where the Little League fields are.
Mm-hmm.
It's right over there.
And you were the board chair?
I was, yes. I just rolled off, I think, in January. So that has been a focus for a while. I'm also involved with Buddy Mentor. I've been a youth mentor with them since they started in Charlotte, and they've got a great program.
Two worthy organizations that you yourself have been involved in. And well, how do you bring those thoughts about governance to your own law firm? Because you're the CEO of the law firm, right? And that's a different role. And you're the founder of the law firm, right? But meanwhile, you have this community, these constituents, literal partners, and that who all of whom are leaders in their own right. And so I imagine there's a lot of push and pull and collaboration, but sometimes deciders got to decide. I wonder how you pull together all those experiences that you've had as a lawyer and as a nonprofit board member and board chair and as a partner in multiple law firms, into your current role.
Wow. I mean, it learning curve, huge learning curve. But also, I have the most amazing law partners. I don't know of any other law firm like ours, in that we like each other. We actually like each other. We trust each other. And probably most importantly, we respect one another. We have a great deal of professional respect. And I think what sort of started to happen was I am naturally a collaborative person. So I wanted to involve them in all the decisions and bring them into everything. But then it starts to get to the point where you're having a board meeting to discuss whether we're going to use satin finish hardware or bronze finish hardware. And you realize that this is not a good idea and it's not a good use of anybody's time. And my partners just learned to trust me because I did it. And they would say to me, like, when we were going to buy this building in Noda, I think they all thought I was slightly nuts. But they're like, well, you've gotten us where we are. We've done well so far. We trust you.
Well, you're in a place where, career-wise, where you have a history. The firm, the Gardner Skelton PLLC, has had multiple locations and different incarnations and has grown and changed over the years. You, as a professional, have grown and changed over the years, and your practice has changed. You're now in a place where you're not doing nearly as much day-to-day litigating and arguing with opposing counsel on the phone as I'm sure you used to enjoy. And now you're doing more of managing the business and, acting in sort of an executive capacity as sort of the manager of the law firm. And I wonder how you think about that, about your own trajectory. You're a mediator, a subject that's near and dear to my heart. I wonder how you think about your own path through your career and what you see, what you think about where you are and where you're headed.
I think a lot of things, Steve. So I started mainly as a litigator and an employment litigator, and I love employment law, and I love litigating for the most part. There are the downsides, as all litigators know. But what I was finding was a lot of clients wanted me to be essentially their general counsel, and when they were calling, they need you like right away. When the CEO needs their general counsel, they need to get them on the phone now. And when you're litigating, you know this, you're stuck for large blocks of time. You're in depositions for days. You're head down trying to write a summary judgment brief. And I couldn't navigate the different type of practice. And my practice just became this, I answer the phone. That's what I do. My clients call me, they need something. I answer the phone, we talk about it. I get it done for them. I don't usually know what my day is going to hold. It is a mystery at 8 a.m. and that only reveals itself as we go forward. But that's a very different practice than the litigation practice. And I recruited my husband. When you think about what lawyer would you trust to take over litigation matters for your own clients who you love, there's nobody better, in my opinion. So I recruited my husband to sort of take over that part of my practice.
Well, your husband, Jared Gardner, an accomplished lawyer, been around for a while, and has always done litigation. At least I met Jared Gardner as opposing counsel on a case. That's how I've met some of my best friends in Charlotte as opposing counsel on cases. And when you say, who else could you possibly want? There's nobody better. And you're referring to your own husband. That's high praise in a sense, but certainly not universal. I think there's a lot of people out there in the world that would not want to go into business with their spouse, right? Because you already have this partnership in life. And when you choose to create a partnership in business, I can imagine you got to think through a lot of things, right? Because you have your existing partners in business, right? And you got to sort of navigate this. And I don't know that it's automatic or obvious. That's a great idea, but clearly it's worked out. How do you make it work?
A lot of love and patience, mostly from him. It was a little weird at first, but we both, we met each other in law school. We started litigating at the same time. I think I was litigating for 10, 12 years before I recruited him. And so we grew up as litigators together. I know his ability. I know his style. I know how talented he is. So that's when I say there's nobody better. I mean, how many lawyers do you know that well, who you've helped them think through their cases and their problems and their strategies? And him, obviously, the same with me. At first, it was a little strange, especially when he was working for my clients, because I would say, no, don't do that, do this. And he'd be like, I know how to do this, right? I'd say, yes, I know you know how to do this, but I know this client, and I know what their risk tolerance is, and I know how they like things done, and I can just tell you that this is what they're going to want. And eventually, he was okay with that, and he kind of mellowed into that, and our practices are not terribly intertwined anymore. He is so busy that I'm always trying to get him to take my litigation matters, and I can't always. Fortunately, I have several other good litigator partners who are sometimes more accommodating. But even though our practices are separate, it works for us. I can't explain it. We've been attached at the hip since law school, so it's okay for us. I know a lot of people wouldn't like it.
Yeah, there's people like that though. I've represented a lot of family businesses. Sometimes it was siblings, and sometimes it was spouses, and they work together all the time, and that's the way they want it, and that's the way they like it. As I'm sitting here listening to you, it occurs to me that there's this sort of work-life balance concept that exists in the world that litigators are not necessarily always strong on. And certainly that was true of me. I was not the kind of person who would just leave work at the office and come home and just completely shut it off, ever. And I was fine with that. I didn't mind it. Now, I think some people from the outside looking in would look at people like us. It sounds like, I'm assuming you're kind of the same way, just based on the fact that you're married to your law partner. And, I imagine you talk about work at home, and
it drives our kids absolutely insane.
Well, from the outside looking in, you might look at that and say, that's unhealthy, or your life would be better if you could be better about leaving work at the office. I just don't know that's true. I used to be happy to answer emails when I was on vacation, for example, so that number one, I just was keeping up with stuff so that when I got back to the office after a week away or whatever it was, that I wasn't just completely inundated, and I like being in touch and kind of knowing what was going on. And so I don't know. I don't know that it could be pathological. And if it is, I have that pathology. You know what I mean? It's possible. And it sounds like you and Jared definitely do too. But I think we should at least entertain the possibility that there's a certain kind of person who is a certain kind of way. And this work is particularly suited for that kind of a person, because you're getting into a relationship with a client in a difficult matter that requires a lot of attention and a lot of care. And it's really important to the people who you're working with. It's really incredibly important, and sort of living with it. I don't know, at least according to my process, I'd have ideas and stuff late at night. And
yeah, you carry that stuff with you. You can't forget when you walk out the door about this very important problem that your client has. I mean, it doesn't just magically sort of disappear from your mind because you left the office.
And they love that about you. Right? That's why you're so highly regarded by your clients and by your colleagues. I really believe people know that you care.
I do.
And so...
I mean, I'm glad they know. I hope it shows, because I really do. That's what we're here to do as lawyers. We're here to care about other people's problems and do our very best to help them solve those problems in the best way possible for them. That's what we're here for.
So, having said all that, do you think you need to turn it off a little bit sometimes? I'm asking you directly. Do you think that you need to turn it off sometimes, and your life would be better off if you could?
Yes. Short answer, yes. I don't think it's good to carry work around in your head all the time. And there are times when I just have to put my laptop away and put all my devices away so that I can't see emails coming in and all that stuff. And I do think that's healthy. Sometimes you just need to take 8-10 hours and not be online and not be working. My clients, most of my clients have my cell. They know if they really need me, they can find me. So it's okay for me to unplug for a minute. If there's an emergency, they know how to get me.
You've had an opportunity now to work with younger lawyers. You referred to your younger people, the people who are so happy to go to NODOP because that was the kind of place where they wanted to be. So it's a good fit in that way. How do you find the experience of showing younger lawyers the ropes, how it's done, both in terms of the nuts and bolts of the work itself, which is something that a lot of people may not appreciate. You don't learn in law school, really. You don't learn much in law school about actually day-to-day being a lawyer. It's something that you learn from other lawyers, and you learn it from the partners that you work with if you're fortunate to have that experience. I've learned a ton from opposing counsel. I picked up a lot of my best tricks were things that people did to me.
Oh, yeah.
Very effective. I was like, I'm going to file that away. Somebody else is going to see that one. That was really good. And but how do you find the experience of working with younger lawyers? Is that something you enjoy?
Usually, yes. It can be challenging. I mean, anybody our age knows this. Our youngest generation is very different than us. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. And fortunately for me, I've got a 22-year-old, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old. So I have some connection and understanding to this generation and what they've been through and what their perspective is. But working with young people is pretty awesome, because if you really want to get in touch with being a human being, mentoring someone else to be their best self and to achieve a goal that they want to achieve, this is fun. This is great stuff. And I love it when I see them, when I give them a client or a project and it comes back to me and it's excellent. And I know that they've got it. And this makes me insanely happy. 5 of our associates were listed as rising stars and super lawyers this year. And I was blown away because I know how great they are, but I didn't realize anybody else knew how great they are. It
must give you a lot of pride.
Good.
Like when
It
in the way that you're like proud of your own kids in a way. It's like you know that they're great and you think that they're great, but to realize that they have this whole life that's out there, this whole professional network and reputation that you're a part of, but it's not you, it's them themselves, and that they're being recognized in that way for who they are. That must be incredible.
is. It's great. I love it. It makes me happy for them. And, it's fun because I think back to myself at that age, and I think you and I talked about this right before we went on. It's very anxiety producing. Those first, 7-8 years of practice, you're sort of terrified all the time because really you don't know anything, and you're terrified of making a mistake. And being able to be a person that helps them to navigate that really difficult period in your professional life, that's an honor.
How'd you end up in Charlotte? Yeah, you said that you met Jared in law school. You went to UCal Berkeley for law school. So how did you come to Charlotte straight after, or was there some more steps along the way?
We worked in the Bay Area for a little while. I was at a great firm that was then Sonnenschein, Nath and Rosenthal, and now is part of Denton's, so part of the mega firm. And Jared, same. His old firm is now part of Reed Smith. But we had great jobs with people paying us too much money to work a whole lot. But we kind of knew what our life path held for us. We knew that kids were going to be in the picture at some point. And if you've ever been to San Francisco and have a sense of the housing market there, it is just unbelievable. So we started actually looking for a house, and it was so stressful because we're making ridiculous amounts of money for young people. Wanted to probably come back east because my family is here. And my husband is a native San Diegan. I knew he would not survive much north of the Mason-Dixon line because he would freeze to death. He didn't own a winter coat before I met him. I don't think he owned long sleeves, actually.
You don't need them in Southern California.
No, you really don't. He had a motorcycle jacket and that was it. So we were kind of looking in the North Carolina, Virginia area. And when we hit Charlotte, I don't know exactly what happened. It just kind of felt right. I got offered a job. I liked the opportunity. We liked the area. Bank of America had moved here. It seemed like there was some really good, interesting, sophisticated legal work happening in it. It was, at the time in 2001, it was a relatively small city. And it just seemed so cool. Like we ended up living 10 minutes from uptown. I had an hour and 15-minute commute when we were working in the Bay Area, and this was just awesome.
Well, you've been here 25 years now then.
Yeah, wow.
So you've seen a lot of changes. And so whether it's based on your personal reflection or your observations of the city itself, I wonder what you think of Charlotte today and where it's headed.
I love Charlotte. Charlotte rocks. I mean, I don't really understand some of the negativity around Charlotte. And I know there's a lot of talk about blandness. And yeah, I get it. As someone who grew up north and loves New York, we don't have old architecture and we don't have old buildings. And yes, we took a lot of things down that we probably shouldn't have. But if you want a comparison, I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania. The closest pseudo city was Wilkes-Barre. And that city hasn't grown since I was a kid. And I think it's contracted, and you see buildings that are shut down in a downtown that doesn't really have any downtown. Like, that's depressing. Charlotte is constantly growing, evolving, changing, doing stuff. There are very cool people in Charlotte. I think sometimes we forget about the cool people and the cool stuff. Yeah, not all of our apartment buildings are architectural masterpieces, that's for sure. But we've got just awesome things happening all the time. Every time you turn around, there's a new restaurant. There's a new, mahjong place. There's things that just blow your mind that they exist. I was driving over here and I drove past Providence and Queens. There's the statue of the older gentleman who used to direct traffic.
We celebrate our eccentrics in the South.
Yes.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, and what a great thing. There was an older gentleman who decided he wanted to direct traffic, and now he's got a statue. And he's dressed up today for the 4th of July. How cool is that?
The Thirsty Beaver is my favorite.
Oh, I love the Thirsty Beaver.
I think it's not only the best bar in Charlotte, but probably the whole world. And the fact that, and I thought that before they built an apartment building around it, I mean, I always love those stories of the places that have a whole skyscraper sort of built around them. And now we have one right here in Plaza Midwood.
It is hysterical. I love the visual of that place. It is the best.
Nicole Gardner, thank you for being together with me on the Charlotte Ledger podcast.
And truly a pleasure. Thanks, Steve.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening. This episode was produced by Lindsay Banks. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger by visiting thecharlotteledger.com.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.